Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids. We're beaming out to you from the lovely neighborhood of Reedville, the gem of Boston, Massachusetts. And we are so thrilled that you're joining us. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. Every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. Want to help us grow this mission? Well, then tell all of your family and friends. Tell your kids' teachers, even the crossing guard, that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Player FM, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a really wonderful show for you today. First up, have a fantastic conversation with Lucy Knisley. She's here to celebrate Sugar Shack. It's her middle grade graphic novel, part of her Pea Pod Farm series. And later in the show, April Dwyer is here, telling us all about her new picture book, How to Sing Like a Gibbon. Hey, I want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Big Fork Brands. Looking for the perfect way to turn an ordinary evening into an unforgettable family moment? We've got the recipe. Start with a great book, add a cozy blanket, and finish it off with some mouth-watering snacks from Big Fork Brands. Big Fork's bacon sausage is absolutely unreal. Nitrate-free, hardwood smoked, and packed with flavor. Their bold Chicago-style sauces and high-protein meat snacks are made for families who want clean, honest ingredients that taste amazing. So next time you're planning a family read-aloud night, serve up some flavor with Big Fork Brands. Visit bigforkbrands.com and use the code word READ for 20% off your order. Because food and stories, they're both better when shared together. Remember, bigforkbrands.com. Use the promo code READ for 20% off. Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from beautiful Long Island in New York. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new middle grade graphic novel. It's called Sugar Shack. Please welcome to the show, Lucy Knisley. Hey, Lucy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you on. Boy, Lucy is here. She has a huge smile on her face and a bright blue ball cap, or at least underneath.
Yep.
Brim is. Oh, it's even more colorful. Tell us about Sugar Shack, please.
Sure. So Sugar Shack is the third in the Pea Pod Farm series. It's a middle grade series about blended families and trying to find your place in the world. And it is based on my experiences moving from the country to the city when my parents got divorced and finding my place in a new blended family.
What part of the country were you living in, and what city did you move to? Because that could be that could play big.
Yes, I was living in New York City, so about as urban as you can get when I was a young kid. And then my parents split when I was about 8, and I moved with my mom to upstate New York to the Hudson Valley region, which is an agricultural region. Now it's kind of also sort of a vacation region, but at the time that we moved up there, it was it was farmland, and my mom got heavily involved with farming and agriculture and farmers markets, and I was sort of along for the ride. And she also started dating, and the man that she started dating had two daughters. And so I'm an only child, and I had to navigate this new sibling relationship that I was suddenly thrust into. So the books are really about unexpected situations and trying to find the good in them.
Boy, that is, I was thinking going from New York City to upstate New York is challenging enough, but then, that blending of those families, all of a sudden you're with your mom and you have her attention, and when your parents were together, you had all their attention, and then now having to share it with a couple of strangers.
Yeah, and so many kids go through divorce, so many kids have to move, and I worked on this series and the bulk of it during the pandemic, and I really was thinking about how so many kids during the pandemic really had to change their circumstances in a way that felt out of control, and it brought back all my own feelings about being in situations that are really out of your control and sort of being confronted with adults who are making all the decisions for you. So I wanted to capture that feeling that so many kids share in adolescence.
It's a really, it's difficult enough to grow up.
Yeah.
But then when you throw those other things in and then throw a pandemic in on top. Now, is the book set in the pandemic time frame?
It is not. It's sort of set in a nebulous time frame, referencing somewhat the kind of 90s time that I went through those experiences. So there's a corded phone in the house, that sort of thing. But it's sort of left up to the reader to imagine what time it is. The pandemic isn't a part of it directly, but it definitely informed my writing of the story and what I wanted to convey.
Yeah. I made a living for decades doing educational magic shows around the country, and every once in a while when I felt mischievous, I would talk about when I was growing up, and I guess you guys have this phone in your pocket. You can call all around the world. When I was growing up, I had to stand next to the wall with the phone was on. I could only go so far away, and you get wrapped up in it, and everybody heard your conversation because you couldn't go anywhere else. You had to sit in the kitchen.
It's interesting. I'm a parent myself, and now so many other parents have this real nostalgia for it. And it was such a great way for kids to have to learn etiquette. You have to call them, may I please speak to so-and-so? And so there's all these products on the market now that are sort of dumb phones that plug into the wall, and the kids got to deal with the cord and stuff. And it's really funny to see them kind of make a comeback, these corded phones.
Wow, I was not aware of that. My kids are much older now, 29 and 32, so I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, it was a whole different thing. It was like, hello, can I help you? May I speak?
Right. So-and-so speaking, yeah.
Yeah. Boy, what is it about the graphic novel genre that you enjoy working in so much?
I've always loved comics. I read them voraciously as a kid, but of course, when I was growing up, there were nowhere near the amount of kids' graphic novels. So I sort of read what I could get. And this is the story of so many comic artists now that we were really hungry for it at the time. So now we've grown up and we want to make more comics for the kids that we were back then. So when I was growing up, I read a ton of Calvin and Hobbes. I read a lot of Archie comics. And then I read, newspaper comics, for better or for worse. And those were all wonderful comics. But now you can just get these incredible graphic novels that are very much tailored to whatever you're into at the moment as a kid. And that is so cool. So for me, I've always been really into food, and I'm a big eater. And when I started thinking about the kind of book that I would have wanted to read as a young person, I know that I would have wanted to see more stories about divorce and going through sort of familial changes that way. And I wanted to hear more about food. I love food. I have a book called Relish that's about growing up with my mother, who is a professional chef, and all of the wonderful food memories I have associated with that. So the story is sort of about Jen, and she moved from the city to the country, and she, like me, loves food. And so subtly, the comic actually tells the story of where food comes from and the people that steward the land and the agricultural facets that come into play with the food that you then find in the grocery store. So comics is such a wonderful sort of method for telling these stories, because comics gives you the visual literature of experiencing that food, and it gives you the more sensory experiences when you're talking about food. So Jen, this character, while she's learning how to work on a farm, learning her farm chores, she's also learning about the food that is so freshly made there on the farm, and how to make it and how to grow it, and how delicious it is when you get to eat something that's straight off the vine, that you participated in its production. So comics are such a wonderful method for doing that. And I'm really, really lucky that I've always loved comics. I've always liked to draw comics, and that for this particular story, comics are the perfect way to tell it.
You know, you mentioned fresh food. I was touring El Salvador with a group called Clowns Without Borders a couple of years ago, and it was pineapple season, and we were down the road, and there would be kiosks along the highway for miles and miles and miles, and I picked up a pineapple that was probably picked that morning, and when I had it, my head almost exploded. It was so sweet and delicious.
Yeah, it's wild how you can have these real sensory experiences when you get so close to where the food comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I want to mention this. My son love graphic novels and anime and manga and all that stuff. And I supported his love of it. You know, we'd get him some, you know, take him and let him buy it, and we'd buy it. If I was on the road, I'd bring some home. But I didn't appreciate the fact that he was reading. I would, every once in a while, I would go into his room and go, dude, please, just can you pick one book without a picture to read? And, you know, I had no idea and no appreciation that graphic novels contain great literature these days.
Yeah, and not just the storyline and the text, but kids are learning this wonderful visual literacy. They're learning about the expression of the character and sort of what occurs from panel to panel. They have to kind of use their imagination to follow the storyline from page to page. And I think that that's really interesting and often unappreciated by parents, that they're not realizing that it's just a different kind of reading, and it's a different form of reading that is offering more sensory input for your kid, perhaps. And I think that's what a lot of kids are seeking. I have a sensory seeker kid myself who loves comics, and it's a really natural way for them to read and to take in information, because they really get a lot more out of it than they would looking at just text. But that isn't to say that plain textbooks are not welcome in my house. We have tons, but I've never had to struggle to get my kid to read, because we've always encouraged comics reading, and it opens up the door to a love of books in general. So when we started with comics and we encourage comics, it gives my kid the knowledge that books are a safe space and a wonderful experience for them, without being judgmental, without being the person putting the brakes on their reading and their love of reading. So if you're a parent and you're always going, you have to pick one real book at the library, like I so often hear, and I'm standing there trying to like force myself to not say anything. Like, they're real books. Oh, but I just want to say that I know that I have a vested interest in kids reading comics, but as a parent, I've never struggled to get my own kid to read, because I've always embraced what they want to read. And so often it is graphic novels.
Yeah. Absolutely. Boy. I wish I could go back in time and just take those words back about read a book without a picture. I'm curious, how many, and I know it varies from book to book, but how many illustrations are in Sugar Shack?
Oh God. I think Sugar Shack's about 250 pages, and I would say there's about 8 or 9 illustrations per page, other than splash pages. So graphic novels are the only art form that is less time consuming in terms of the drawing than animation. So yeah, it's got a lot of drawings in it, and I've developed the muscle skills and the practice to get through it, but it's a ton of drawing. It's a ton of writing. But it's worth it. I love telling these stories. I love these characters. It's so fun to make a visual gag in amongst it. And so, yeah, part of the storyline in the first book is about how Jen has dyscalculia, which is a math-based learning disability. So that is taken from real-life experience. So if you can do the math for about 250 pages, about 8 illustrations per page, you are very welcome to. I am not going to do that. My skills lie elsewhere.
My son could do that, and he used to get in trouble because he would do I get these reports from the teachers, and I'd go in, I goes, I don't understand it. The kid's really good with numbers. And the teacher would say, yeah, he is. He does everything in his head, but I can't give him credit because he won't show his work.
Yep.
The thing, he writes down the answer, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard a teacher say. But
Yep, my kid does the exact same thing.
yeah. Comics are so, and always have been so important to us. I remember as a kid, there was a newspaper strike in Boston when I was around, 6 or 7 years old, maybe. And people were clamoring for comics so much that the evening news would read 4 or 5 comics and show the different panels. And that happened. It was a long, I think, weeks or months long strike here in Boston, and people just needed their comics. They needed Snoopy and Peanuts and all of that.
They always have. You can harken back to hieroglyphics. You can talk about cave paintings. These are all sequential images telling a story. That's a very, very basic form of communication for human beings, and we all sort of recognize this sequence of images in a strip as like, this is how the time is passing, this is how the story is told. And I get it. I would also, if I could get comics nowhere else, I'd be tuning into the news every single night to have them read to me.
Yeah. I apologize in advance. This is going to be a dumb question, so I'm sorry. But as you're creating, do you create each illustration like a big full illustration and then shrink it down, or are you there trying to do eight illustrations on one page?
That is not a dumb question. Every single comic artist does something different in that regard. There's people that work smaller than the print size. There's people that work much, much bigger than the print size. I work a little bit bigger than the print size in the final page, but the way that I lay out the page, I want the panels to kind of interact with one another. So when I draw, I'm drawing them in the panel on the page. So they're not like one big illustration shrunk down into each panel. It's just the page, slightly larger than what you see on the page of the book. And I've scripted the story at that point. It's sort of like a screenplay, the way that you would write a movie. And I know approximately how much space each of the illustrations is going to take up, how much import I want to put on an interaction, how much dialogue I have to have there. And that all informs me on how big I want the panel to be, how much space I want it to take up. And so it's really about practice and understanding the language of comics that helps to get me to the point where I can kind of know what the page is going to look like ahead of time.
Wow. That's really incredible. I remember a conversation I had with an artist here of a graphic novel for young kids, and she was explaining to me that she made the main character really simple because she knew she was going to have to draw it a couple of hundred times, and therefore didn't want to break her fingers.
Yeah,
doing all those illustrations. And the very next day, I had another artist who had illustrated a graphic novel. It was a historical graphic novel about ancient Greece. And she was so frustrated because I had to have all these little tiny details, and each one took her like a week or something.
Yep. We all punish ourselves in various ways. In the second book in the Pea Pod Farm series, it's set in the fall in a cornfield where they're doing a haunted hayride. And I remember being like, why did I choose to set this in a cornfield where now I have to draw each individual corn stalk to fill up the whole background of this page? And I remember just being so angry at myself. And then I finished the book and I was talking to another comic artist about it, where I was like, man, I drew so many corn stalks. I can't believe I was doing that. And she was like, oh, why didn't you just make a digital brush that like paints in the corn stalks automatically? And I was like, you can do that. So we're all learning ways to not punish ourselves. But
yes.
Yeah, one of the best ways is to keep your character design pretty simple and pretty familiar. keep your backgrounds pretty simple. I chose a winter setting for this third book for Sugar Shack because I thought it would be much simpler to draw a snowy background than it would be to draw like a forested background or a farm background. And it ended up being just as challenging because I was trying to, make it look like the snow was there and understanding the way that the snow interacts with footprints and how it hangs off of trees and stuff. So, you can't win with this stuff. You just got to do it sometimes. And if you're lucky, you can find a shortcut.
Yeah. I'm really curious and I hope you don't mind me asking, but we're talking about the Pea Pod series and Sugar Shack and about this character that's now blending into a family. Is there a secret sauce or some advice you can share with a parent who may be beginning the blending process to help the new siblings get along or come together better, understand each other better?
Sure. I think what I would offer to a parent, and this is just from the perspective of a child that's gone through it, I haven't done it as an adult. What I really needed was for my mom to be my advocate in this situation. And she was very busy kind of being the girlfriend for a lot of it. She was the new girlfriend. She wanted everything to go smoothly. She wanted it all to be copacetic. And when I was kind of thrown into this new situation, it was very clear that the hope was that we would all be best friends immediately and like, oh, now we're a new family. And there was so much pressure on me to immediately adapt to this new situation. And what I needed from my mom was just to be my advocate in this situation, for us to be a team rather than it's her and her new boyfriend are the team and I'm like just trying to play along. So that's what I would offer, that you need to be your child's advocate and be someone who's, your hope is that it's good for your kid, not that it's good for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would say would have helped me quite a bit. And in the end, really did help me. So there's a transition where Jen and her new sort of stepfather figure in the books do not get along. And the stepfather figure is based on my own experiences of my stepfather, who was a difficult person. Mm-hmm. And one of the big criticisms of the first book was how much of a jerk he was, that he was a jerk, that this character was a jerk. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. And you can read reviews online of people being like, I can't believe this character. I hate him. I want him to die. And those were great. I was really, I know they were mad and they were not good reviews per se, but what I wanted out of the story was this understanding that kids will encounter adults who are not nice to them, mm-hmm. not necessarily abusive, not necessarily somebody who's a danger to them, but somebody who's just a jerk. And they're an adult, so they're in charge. They get to make decisions, and you can't always remove yourself from the situation when you're confronted with an adult who behaves this way, that behaves unfairly to you. And I wanted that frustration, and I wanted kids to feel like they weren't alone in being really annoyed and angry at the adults in their lives making poor decisions or treating them poorly, and that you don't always have the ability to protect yourself from that, but you always have the ability to try and find the good things that will give you the safe space away from that situation. And for Jen, that was sort of understanding her position on the farm and finding the good in her new role in the country and sort of figuring out her relationship with the kids there. So the arc of the 3 books, by the end, Jen's kind of accepted Walter, her stepfather, as this kind of annoying figure in her life, but she has the tools of knowing her place in the family and knowing that she can rely on her mother to help her if Walter gets out of hand, knowing that she's not alone in being irritated by him. And I really wanted the kids who read this book to know that there are ways to cope with adults who are jerks.
Mm-hmm. Boy, was it difficult for you to allow yourself to be that vulnerable, to put that story, which is in a lot of ways your story, on the page?
Yeah, in a way. I've always worked in memoir and nonfiction for my work. I really relish the ability to kind of communicate directly from who I am at the time to maybe a future version of me or to the reader. And so that always felt very safe to me because I was talking about things that had actually occurred that were verifiable. And I always felt that fiction was actually much more personal because I was sharing something that only existed in my own mind with the world. So this book is my first attempt at fiction, this book series, and it's sort of fiction with training wheels on because it's based on my own life and my own experiences. And it was a really good way to play with what makes me feel most vulnerable as a writer and what amounts of myself I can share and be very honest with, while at the same time protecting myself as a person who is not the character that I am portraying on the page. So it's a fine line to walk, and I certainly had to navigate what my stepsisters thought of the book and what they felt about the character of their father. And he's since passed away, so there's a lot of like, oh, he would never have done that. He was a saint. And it's like, no, I remember. Like, I loved him at the end, but like back then I was pretty angry. So yeah, I had to navigate my own feelings of trying to kind of whitewash his behavior back then and try to make him seem like the sainted figure. But I really wanted him to be portrayed as he was, which was a complicated, confrontational and brusque kind of character. And I think I captured him pretty accurately. And by the end of the story, you sort of come to appreciate how the role that he plays in the family.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that was difficult with your stepsisters.
Yeah. I'm very close to the older stepsister. The younger stepsister, not as much. And the older stepsister lives very, very far away in Australia. So there's a lot of back and forth in like different time zones of consultation about like, do you remember when this happened? And she does not have a good memory for these things. So I'd be like, no, it definitely happened. And she'd be like, I don't remember that at all. So I think it helps that I could fabricate things perhaps that I remembered falsely. But yeah, you know, I want to be respectful in my work, of course, and I don't want anyone to be hurt by it. But you know, this is also my story to tell. It's fictionalized. All the names are changed to protect the innocent, that sort of thing. And it's the story from my point of view. So I welcome anyone to tell their own story from their own point of view. If it contradicts mine, they're very welcome to tell it.
Well, I mean, I think that's important too for everybody to realize and for us to talk to our kids about is that everybody, you know, everybody might be in the same situation. And going back to the pandemic, this is a perfect example. You know, everybody was in the same ocean, but we weren't in the same boats.
Right.
You know, so, and everybody has their own perspective of things. And so, yeah, I am imagining for a single child going into a blended family with more than one other sibling, you're the underdog from the start.
Yeah, and you just never really know how to interact as a sibling. Like you have to figure that out, and it's a language that you don't speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lucy, can you tell us where we can go to find out more about Sugar Shack and your other books and art?
Certainly. My website is just my name, Lucy Knisley, KNISLEY.com. And I've got lots of comics and illustrations, and all of my books are listed there. You're also welcome to go to your local bookstore or library. The book is out August 5th and should be available everywhere. But if you want to brush up on the first two, hopefully they'll be stocked at your local and you can pick them up. The first one's called Stepping Stones, and the second one is called Apple Crush. This third one that's coming out in August is called Sugar Shack.
I think that's a great idea. That's what I do. Anytime my favorite series is coming on with a new season, I go back and I watch the previous season, so I'm all caught up. And then when the new one comes and drops, it's like, yeah, right into it.
Right? It helps you appreciate the new stuff and like what it's hearkening back to. It's great.
Yeah. We've had a really great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Sugar Shack, a new middle grade novel from our friend Lucy Knisley. Lucy, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we've been talking about CozyEarth.com for a while now, and we absolutely hope you take advantage of an incredible 41% discount when you go to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ. You know, one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening up a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm thrilled to welcome CozyEarth.com. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook. Wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Joining us right now from Albania. I think this is our first guest from Albania. Please welcome to the show the author of How to Sing Like a Gibbon. Please welcome April Dwyer. Hey, April, how are you?
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Really happy to have you. Typically, April would be in Australia speaking to us, but she's a little bit closer to our studios in Europe. Having a great holiday?
Yeah, fantastic. Just enjoying the warmer weather and the beautiful mountains.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's talk about How to Sing Like a Gibbon. Some people might not be familiar with what a gibbon is and what family it falls into.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So gibbons are actually an ape, not a monkey, but they're sort of known as the lesser ape, just because of their size. And yeah, basically they move a little bit different to the bigger apes that people are more familiar with, like a chimpanzee or a gorilla or humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so in How to Sing Like a Gibbon, we're going to meet a little gibbon, correct?
Yes, we're meeting a baby northern grey gibbon called Gilly. And Gilly's around 1 year old. Well, 1 to 2 years old based on the sort of skills that he's learning in the wild.
Uh-huh. And is Gilly a real creature, this story based on a real animal?
No, not one specifically, but rather sort of like a culmination of lots of gibbons that I've sort of met during my time as a wildlife conservationist.
So tell us where would we typically find a gibbon, and what's their habitat? What kind of things they like to do?
Yeah, gibbons are found in Asia. Basically, you'll find them in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, India, Myanmar. There's 20 different species, and they love being high up in the canopy. They don't like to come down to the ground at all. If they do come down, it's a little bit strange and perhaps there's something wrong. But yeah, they like to swing high up in the treetops.
It's fascinating. I've had the opportunity to visit a few rainforests here in Puerto Rico and also in Central America, and it's amazing how much life. It's like a city up there.
Absolutely. And I think when, as you would know, when you're standing in those kind of spaces out in the jungle and like the noises are actually deafening. You've got all the different bugs, the birds kind of thing, even just like the wind blowing in the trees. It's pretty awesome, actually.
It really is. The most terrifying experience I had was in Panama, and we're taking a cruise on one of the rivers that feeds the Panama Canal, and we heard a howler monkey up the canopy, and it was It was so loud and so terrifying. I think my wife was about to jump off the boat.
Yeah, I bet that's a really like cool experience though. Like you're lucky to have heard that. Their sound is very unique, very cool.
Very, very unique. Yeah, yeah. I think most, and I certainly haven't done the kind of exploring that you've done, but talk about that. Where did your love for wildlife and these jungle creatures come from?
Honestly, it's just an affinity that I've had since I was a child. I have sort of relatives with memories of me at the age of 4, just saying, I want to work with monkeys. I want to be out in the jungle. So it's always something that I've worked towards since I was a child. It's always been a dream of mine, and one that I've been like lucky enough to realize in a number of ways. So yeah, short answer is I think it's just kind of always been within me. I just have an affinity towards that, to the outdoor spaces and to animals and whatnot.
Yeah. Now you come from a land that is filled with pretty unique creatures. You couldn't fall in love with a koala or a kangaroo?
Tell me about it. That would have made my life so much easier. Yeah, we do have some really unique arboreal, like tree-dwelling species as well. And, I do think about sort of being at home and perhaps working with those species in the future. But for now, I'm still sort of focusing on Asia and primates and whatnot. Yeah, for now.
So, as I understand it, Gilly lives in Borneo, in the Borneo rainforest?
Yes, yeah. I chose, out of the 20 species of gibbons, I sort of chose the underdog species. There's not a lot of research done on this particular species. And so I thought that I would sort of put them in the limelight a little bit. Of course, I didn't realize at the time the challenges that would come with that, as in there wasn't much for me to research specifically about that species either. So we really had to like dig deep with our illustrations and make sure we were sort of getting it right. And just their colorations, because each species is different. So we really wanted to like honor the species and get everything correct.
Now, I was on your website, and it sounds like your illustrator has a very interesting story as well.
Yeah, Napas. She's an incredible conservation artist who also has a background like myself in biology. And so I always had a vision for the illustrations for How to Sing Like a Gibbon. And we happened to cross each other's path through a Gibbon organization, actually. And then I saw her illustrations, and I think I immediately reached out and was like, will you be my partner in this project? And she obviously said yes. And so that was really great getting to collaborate with her. She's ridiculously talented, and she just creates the most lifelike, dreamy kind of illustrations of all sorts of, I think, unknown species. A lot of people might not know the species that she covers. She does a lot of work around Borneo species, but she can, also just the wider like Asian realm of species. Yeah.
So if you could just talk a little bit about what are gibbons or different species of gibbons, are they endangered? And if they are, what's the biggest challenge to them?
Yeah, unfortunately, all gibbon species are endangered, and some are critically endangered. There's a number of things sort of driving that, which include obviously habitat, destruction through deforestation and whatnot, but also the illegal wildlife trade. They make very cute pets, but they obviously should not be kept as pets. And they've got these fangs, which, as they become adults, they can cause quite a nasty bite, which then the owners often want to give them up, and in which case they might be handed over to a rehab center like the one that I was working at. So yeah, and it's that kind of like holiday snap. You go on holidays and you might be on the beach and you see this cute monkey or gibbon, and unfortunately people just aren't aware of the sad tale as to how these animals got to be there, which of course they should be high up in the trees, as we said, with their parents.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a sad tale, but there are lots of organizations working to make sure that doesn't continue to happen.
My family and I, we visited a sloth sanctuary in Costa Rica a couple of years ago. And they adorable animals. They make me feel speedy. But also, there's so many. It's hard to imagine that there's so many people with good intentions in their hearts that cause animals like gibbons, like sloths, really tremendous pain.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's really important to remember in this kind of field, is that people really just want to learn about an animal, and they do really just want to get close, kind of thing. And I don't think people intend to cause that harm. And it just comes from education and learning that there are other ways to interact, or other ways that you can help this species, kind of thing, and still hopefully get a different experience out of it, but one that doesn't sort of harm the animal in the process.
Yeah. What's the most interesting experience you've had working in the conservation field?
Maybe my very first volunteering experience, where I was placed in a Malaysian zoo. I was their first ever sort of intern, I suppose. And so that meant I spent a few weeks there, and I spent time with every animal, like from the tigers to the elephants, proboscis monkeys. I don't know if you know them, but they have a really large, like, bulbous nose. They're quite defined, and I'm obsessed with them as well. And orangutans. And so it was sort of this bizarre, I would go around each day and be meeting these new animals, and one day I'm being greeted by an elephant that's, greeting me with their trunk all the way up my body, and I'm absolutely terrified. I'm like, what is going on? And the next minute I'm in with the proboscis monkeys, and they're literally jumping from the sky, landing on my back, and I think it was just all of these experiences at once, and really getting to know each animal up close, for me was just wild at the time, and I think still is.
I bet it was wild. That's crazy. I worked back in the 80s, I worked with kids with severe developmental disabilities, and it was my job to get them out into the community, and we visited a zoo, and the people at the zoo were fantastic, and they wanted to give the kids a chance to touch the animals in safe ways and whatnot. And there was one of our students who was wearing some overalls, just very loose overalls, and they brought out a boa, I think it was a boa constrictor, and the boa constrictor decided, down this kid's overalls, it'd be a really great place for me to explore. And all of a sudden, this guy, he just starts. He can't speak, he can't articulate, but he was getting very excited, and he was shaking and making noise, and we look over and the guy, we should probably get that out of his pants.
I love that. And, I think animals are really perceptive of the person that they're meeting as well. They can really pick when someone's really calm and friendly and happy, and that's also really cool to see. I don't know if the python did, but or the boa.
What's the thing that you want families, because How to Sing Like a Gibbon would be obviously a great book to sit down and experience as a family. What's the most important thing you want them to take away from the experience?
What I really wanted, what I set out to do, was sort of break out of the mold of your monkey, bear, tiger in a storybook. I wanted to bring a story like my love of writing and conservation together. And I thought, let's really get down to the details. I sort of did a lot of research into children's ability to like learn and take from the page out into the real world. And I thought, no, I'm not gonna sort of simplify it. I'm gonna put the actual name of the each animal. We've got the Borneo orangutan and the Sabah grizzled langur. Like they seem lengthy, but they have such cool individual characteristics. It doesn't seem like we're doing them a disservice by not talking about each of their unique traits, kind of thing. So I really just wanted to teach that there is, it's not just a monkey. There's like 500 different species of primates, kind of thing, and to just really teach them about perhaps a few that they didn't know about. And that's for sure the feedback I've got. So many children and adults weren't aware, and they're certainly not of their beautiful song. So that's just been really cool, hearing that feedback, and how many people have since fallen in love with them and their song. So yeah, it's just a way to connect with nature, really, and learn about perhaps a slice of the world that they didn't know about.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Picture books are meant to be experienced together, parent and child. And so I'm glad that you went and you used the proper names for the creatures, because that's why we have parents and kids together. So if there's a word, the parent can help her out. Or if the parent's having trouble with the words, they can figure it out together. And certainly if my 4-year-old son could distinguish between a brontosaurus and a tyrannosaurus and a triceratops, I think, 4-year-olds can appreciate the difference between the different species of primate.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but kids are pretty okay with the dinosaur names, aren't they? They can manage this.
So, I haven't asked you yet, what does a Gibbons song sound like?
Oh, gosh. Oh, you're not going to make me do it, are you?
I would absolutely love for you to do
it. So it's kind of like, firstly, it's beautiful because male and females will duet, and their songs are unique to the pairing. So it really is like a love song. But it's kind of like, ooh, 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 ooh. And it could be all sorts of like different variations of those sounds, and each species will have different sounds and different calls. So it really does vary, but they can go on for minutes, kind of thing. But that's just a little taste.
Primates are such amazing creatures. They're so much like us, and I hear that there's orangutans that have learned how to use like spearfishing, and of course we've heard of gorillas who've learned sign language, or at least some words. And where do gibbons fall in that intelligence range?
Oh, they're highly intelligent. Yeah. I mean, and obviously like their dexterity and whatnot. But they're certainly capable of, like, I think in terms of like, thinking about my experience at the rehabilitation center, we keep those gibbons, like, it's very hands off because they're going to be released back into the wild. So you certainly see them sort of plotting ways that they might grab you or, pull you in, and, giving you like the side eye when you're walking past, as in like, I'm going to pretend that I don't see the human, but at the last minute, they will, they're very fast. They're the fastest of all primates. They will fly across that cage and take a swing at you, but they know to like, just sit still. I know what they're going to do. And then I'm going to pounce on you at the last minute. And you can really see it behind their eyes, like that kind of like that calculating kind of thing.
Wow.
And also the curiosity. It was really nice just observing them, observe their natural surroundings and sort of how they're playing with things and interacting with their environment. And you can really see that they're processing information, they're learning in that moment, and then they're sort of, the following day they're incorporating that in a different way. So highly intelligent and lots of emotions too, very protective of their families. And there's a lot of, in gibbons, it's for life. Well, in most cases, it's for life. So they've got really strong familiar bonds, which is what I try and highlight in my story too. That's one aspect that I love about gibbons. They real family unit, mum, dad, all the kids, and there's just something really beautiful about that.
That is beautiful. And what a great, I imagine that there can be some really fantastic conversations between parent and child as they're experiencing how to sing like a gibbon together.
Yeah. I'd love to hear people's versions.
So what's next for you, April? Do you have another species that you'll be writing about, or are we going to learn more, see Gilly in a new book?
I'd love, there's a particular character in the story. I'd love to, write stories about the other characters in the book, Ollie, the orangutan. And there is another unique species in Vietnam that I've sort of written a story out in my head, the red-shanked duaklanga. It's a very colorful monkey, and I just think it's so unique and very cool that it would be nice to get them some limelight too.
Ah, awesome. Well, we should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about how to sing like a gibbon and find out more about you.
Yeah, okay. So the book's available on Amazon. If you're in Australia, Canberra, then you can also grab it at the National Zoo and a few local bookstores.
Excellent. And is there a website they can go to learn more about you?
Yeah, you can just go to the, it's called Wild Bree Books. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea was Wild Library. So wild, BRARY books.com. And you can learn all about me and Nathas, the illustrator, and of course more about Gilly.
We've had a really fascinating time speaking to the author of How to Sing Like a Gibbon. Our guest has been April Dwyer. April, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks, Dad.
We are so very thankful that you spent part of your day with us here at Reading with Your Kids. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please pass it on. Share the link, leave a 5-star review, and hit that subscribe button so you can join us for the next episode of the show. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to check out readingwithyourkids.com. It's the hub for all things Reading with Your Kids, including how to become a guest, how to join our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, and explore amazing new books. Also want to invite you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on X. We also want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Lucy Knisley. Please be sure to check out her middle grade graphic novel. It's called Sugar Shack. I also want to thank April Dwyer for joining us from Albania. Please be sure to check out How to Sing Like a Gibbon. I want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Yo, kids, gather round, let's make some noise. It's a time to celebrate, our hearts full of joys. Waking up in the morning, sunshine on my face. Thankful for the blessings, life's a sweet embrace. Got my friends around me, laughter in the air. Grateful for this day, we got love to share. Every little moment, every little sound reminds me of the joy we find all around, like colors of a rainbow shining after the rain. We dance through the struggles and we rise again. Thank you for this day, let's shout it out loud. dancing in the stars, lighting up the night. With each word of thanks, we create a flow. Kindness and love, let the gratitude grow. Every laugh, every smile, it's a treasure to find. Together as a team, we're one of a kind. So let's spread this love, share the joy all around. Teaching one another, in gratitude we're bound. Whether it's the sunshine or the rain that may fall, thank you for this day, let's be grateful for it all. Thank you for this day, let's shout it out loud. Living in the moment, full of life, we're proud. Every little blessing we hold close to our hearts. Gratitude's the rhythm, let's play our parts. So kids, take a moment, give thanks every night. For the love, for the laughter, everything feels right. Thank you for this day, no matter what comes our way. Living life gratefully, let's make it our play. So kids, take a moment, give thanks every night. For the love, for the laughter, everything feels right. Thank you for this day, no matter what comes our way. Living life gratefully, let's make it our play.